According to Jim Hull and Mandy Newport, researchers for Center for Public Education, most schools require students to go to school 175 to 180 days a year. This can also be measured as being between 900 to 1,000 hours of school that students are spending their lives on. This typically varies between grade levels. Everyone in this room has been stressed at one time or another due to the schoolwork or just school in general with the intense testing and strict grading systems that are in place. Through hours of research on the effects of forced volunteering as well as hours a student puts into school, I have gathered enough information to support my claim. High school students should not be required to complete community service hours in order to graduate because it takes time away from school and it's a violation of the 13th Amendment and it damages students' perceptions of volunteering. While the required amount of school is between 900 to 1,000 hours a year, this does not include the hours that students take to do their homework outside of school. The hours of mandatory volunteer work for graduation as required in some states can take a lot of time away from students that they don't have. According to Bidwell, author of Students Do More Homework Than Anything Else, and teachers say it's actually worth it, high school teachers on average assign about 3.5 hours of school a week. And with students who have about 5 to 6 classes, that could be like 17.5 hours each week of school that they are doing. Since students go to school on average of 35 weeks, that would mean they are doing homework for 630 hours each year. That means students spend on average 1,530 to 1,630 hours on school a year. And this is not including the time that they are also putting into their part-time jobs and their sports and any other clubs that they might be in. The Education Commission has found that many states that do require students to volunteer in order to graduate, they have to complete an average of 65 hours. These 65 hours, along with over 1,000 hours of school, can be overwhelming and stressful for a student and can take away their time from studying for tests and doing their homework or projects that they have to do. Although there may be students who can easily complete these hours, there are many circumstances many students cannot complete these because of ride or time issues that they may have. Not only can mandatory volunteering take up a student's time that is needed for schoolwork, but it can also be seen as a violation of the 13th Amendment. The Constitution of the United States of America states in Section 1 of the 13th Amendment that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. By forcing people to do volunteer work for free, you are violating the 13th Amendment by making them do work for other people that benefit without them being paid to do it. This isn't slavery because no one's being severely punished for slacking off or just lounging about, but it can be seen as indentured servitude, which is where you do work for another person without being paid to do that work. Bradley Krishik, a lawyer in California, states in his law review that in recent years, however, the 13th Amendment and its guarantee to personal freedom has been under attack as the high schools have put in place a mandatory community service program, and this program forces students to complete community service hours by going to community services that are approved nonprofit organizations. The schools compel this service by threatening to withhold a student's diploma. In the state of Florida, it's not required for every school in the state to require students to complete these hours, but it is encouraged, and there is a program in place that turns these hours into scholarship funds, but then it no longer becomes volunteering because you're being paid to do it. Volunteering is supposed to be something that you do of your own free will, and it's supposed to help people and without you getting much in return other than just the joy of knowing you helped someone. These days, everyone is being paid to volunteer. Schools will also use this as an opportunity to get free workers. They will say that students need to volunteer and that they should volunteer, and then say that they have opportunities for them to volunteer by volunteering at school events or doing anything involving the school. Now that you know why this is a violation of the 13th Amendment, I can explain the effects that forced volunteering has on one's impression of volunteering. Forced volunteering at a young age can really affect a student and can make them see that volunteering isn't something that's really helpful for a person because they see it as something that's affecting them in a negative way. Due to me being in the Health Sciences Collegiate Academy, I had to complete several community service hours. And at first, I was really excited to complete these hours because I was excited to help someone, but then it became a stressful situation because I couldn't find the time to complete these hours. And I ended up having to give up time that I was going to use to spend with my family in order to complete these hours. Sarah Sparks, an education researcher for Education Week, found during a study on the effects of forced volunteering that before the requirement, Maryland seniors were 7.8 percentage points more likely than students nationally to be engaged in community service. Driven primarily by rising service activities among boys and following a national trend of more volunteering during that time, after the service requirement, Maryland seniors were 9.2 percentage points to 17.4 percentage points less likely to volunteer from 1997 to 2011. After being forced to volunteer, students didn't want to volunteer again, which really affects us in the future because then we won't have people who want to volunteer for major things such as natural disasters. Volunteers are constantly needed, and schools are giving volunteering a bad impression by forcing it onto students and not only making it a stressful situation, but a completely unpleasant one. Now that you know more about the negative side of forced volunteering, you can develop your own opinion on this matter. While some may say that volunteering is good for one's mental health and can help them prepare for the future, they truly aren't taking in account that students are already stressed from all the schoolwork and work they have to do with their jobs and put into time for sports and other activities. I do support volunteering, and I believe that everyone should volunteer because helping a person and making someone smile can really make you feel good, but it should never be something that's forced onto a person, especially a person who's in high school and they have to figure out where they want to do with the rest of their lives, and they have to make every single important decision right then.